Secret friends, unite!
Hey, gang, welcome back to Secret Friends Unite, the classic. This is episode 547 of what we are now calling Oops, All Thunderdome. It's our topic-based show where we've cut it down to the bone and we talk about a single topic, something hot that's going on this week. I'm joined again by my buddy, MLive's Eric Hultgren. Eric, good evening to you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, my friend?
Awesome. Doing good. We are going to be talking about the just released this weekend 2025 adaptation of Stephen King's 1982 book, The Running Man, spinning off of the very classic 1987 version with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's a lot of great tie-ins, so we will talk about that as well. But first and foremost, always want to give some love and respect to the wonderful folks over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon at patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, where you can get exclusive programs. All of our shows come out free, come out early. So you get this show, for example, if you're a Patreon on a Tuesday, where the rest of the world gets it on a Thursday. We also got an exclusive channel for our Patreons on our Secret Friends Unite Discord. Your first week is free, half off your first month. And the beauty of it is, because it's only $2 a month to stay on board, you pay $1 and then you're on board for $2 and you're getting 2.5 years worth of awesome entertainment for only $2 a month. Not doing it means you're losing money. You don't want to do that. Patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. We'd love to have you on board with us there. So, all right, ending the commercial portion, we will jump into talking about The Running Man. It was in last week's episode, I had Scott Tipton on, and we talked about the Frankenstein film, the Guillermo del Toro one, which is now on Netflix, and we developed an official name for the protocol of how we do it, and I'll wait till we scroll down to give it, but I'll read the summary of the movie first. I'll talk about kind of the rules of engagement, and then I'm going to kick it over to Eric and let him speak, because I've been doing all this blabbing. But anyway, The Running Man, just so you know, 2025 dystopian action thriller, produced and directed by Edgar Wright, who is a champion of the silver screen, written by him and Michael Bacall. It's the second adaptation of the 1982 Stephen King novel, following the 1987 film with the Governator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. The cast is the beautiful Glenn Powell as the titular character, William H. Macy, Lee Pace, Michael Cera, Emilia Jones, Daniel Ezra, Jamie Lawson, Sean Hayes, Coleman Domingo, and Josh Brolin, Thanos himself. You've got Thanos and you've got the dude who played Ronan, which I thought was great, though they didn't really play off each other that much. It was nice that they were both there. The Running Man was released in the UK on November 12, and here in the US 2 days later by Paramount Pictures. Like the 1987 film, it is receiving mixed reviews from critics. I'll talk about it a little bit in a moment. So, Eric, this is the official protocol, and I know you were on my very first movie review show when we started this new format, and I was kind of fumbling around like best movie ever, worst movie ever, and like that didn't really work out. But in talking with Scott, we determined that we have a 3-graph Marquis of Queensberry rules. That's what we're going to call them. We go.
I love the Queensberry rules. I'm into it. I'm super.
I love that's the new deal. We go no spoilers, so we talk about the film for somebody who hasn't seen it. We give it a rating out of 10. Still stealing, no spoilers, and then both barrels, the whole floodgates open, and talk about it in any fashion that you like. So that is your Marquis of Queensberry rules. I'll throw some numbers at you, and then I'm going to kick it over to Eric for his non-spoilery thoughts before we evolve forward. Currently, as of this recording, which is Saturday evening of the opening weekend, it's tracking a 64% on the tomato meter and 81% on popcorn meter, which is the audience score. Domestic opening weekend is looking to be 17 to 19 million here in North America, against a budget of approximately 110 million. So not a lethal flop, but it's not blowing the doors away. So could it get some legs and be successful? Potentially will be successful overseas. I don't know. I didn't really look into it. I guess we will find out. So those are the numbers. The marks. I got to scroll back up. The Marquis of Queensberry rules now say that let's talk about the film in a non-spoilery context. Eric, talk to me about the movie.
I will say that number is a brutal number. That is an absolute brutal number.
Yeah.
And I don't think reflects this film at all. Do I think it's perfect? No. But let me start by saying this. I genuinely like Glenn Powell, and I like him in this film. Yes, he is kind of a one-note actor, right? You get different degrees of smarminess for sure. But I was watching this thinking, like, if I don't know that he wants to do this, but if he wants to remake 80s films, I think he would make a great remake of Die Hard, if that's like what he wants to do. If that's what's next, I'm down with that. I think
Okay.
I think the issue with this film, staying non-spoiler, is that it has three personalities and they don't seem to want to get along. And I think one of the things that happens towards the end is you have what I would call, I feel like this would be non-spoiler. Stop me if you feel that
Okay.
I'm disappointing. You get a unreliable narrator who isn't through the beginning two acts of the film, which I think makes the ending really cumbersome because you're not really what is real and what isn't real, and the rest of the film's supposed to be real. And so then at the end I was like, because I had watched a couple of reviewers I really respect saying that they didn't know what they felt like coming out of the film, and that's not normally their MO. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I walked out and went, oh, I get it, because that third act is like, what just happened? I will say stylistically, the first act is its strongest. You get all Edgar Wright, double barrel Edgar Wright. It's got vibes. It's got a jammy soundtrack. You get to meet your characters and you understand why everyone is doing what they're doing. And I think a beat for beat remake of the 87 film wouldn't work as well as this gritty 2025 connected piece to the book. It's not a perfect replication of the book, but it is much closer than the Arnold book. And I would say I had a good time. I just think that third act needs to be I think Edgar was trying to figure out what his main character was supposed to do. Was he supposed to tell jokes or was he supposed to do something else? And instead he did all of that.
Yeah, I had the same kind of feeling about the third act, which we can dig into more when we get there. In particular, with a new character that just kind of gets tossed into the mix.
Yes,
and then this character has a monologue, which you can't really tell if it's serious or if it's being played for laughs in some fashion. And then that character doesn't factor into the finale of the film. So you're right. Yeah,
you and I would love this reference. She is the Poochie the dog from The Simpsons in this film. Like, she just returns to her home planet at the end of the film for no reason in particular.
Oh, and we will get into that more lately. So, yeah, I would have to agree. Certainly stronger from the jump and evolving through. And again, it's April, my wife, who is the big Stephen King fan. I've not read the book. I think she told me she'd read it, but didn't have a lot of recollection. But you and I were talking probably a week or 2 weeks ago, and I was rewatching the classic film, and I'm like, to compare that to what we were seeing out of this new film, it's like it felt like there was absolutely no connectivity. The first film, the 87 film, was just 80s. I don't know who the screenwriter was. I don't know if it was Joel Silver or thereabouts, or if it was Ersatz or Joe Ersatz or one of those guys who did those kind of movies. But it was just you could see how we got from there to Jumpstone a couple years later to Total Recall, because he even had two of the same cast members. It had Arnie and had Maria Conchita Alonso, who was the love interest. And that movie also had, I think, Yaphet Kotto, and as a game show host, you had Richard Dawson, was he the Family Feud guy from the 70s?
Yep.
Dun 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 dun. No, that's The Price is Right. You get where I'm going.
Yes, we're good.
You get where I'm going.
And that, and that's like a weird jump from the book, because in this new version that just came out this weekend, Dan Killian is the kind of main bad guy in the film.
Right.
He is the main bad guy in the book. And for some reason in the 87 version, they changed his name to Damon and make him that was a weird, like, again, very 80s, but I don't know why the change in the character from the book to the Schwarzenegger film, but then we change it back to that is straight from the book in the Glenn Powell version.
Right. Yeah, it was just a very, very confusing. And then, the 80s film was filled with a lot of, glitz and glamour and really poor special effects and kind of rough, transitions and things and dialogue and things like that. And just everything that was very much of the era. So,
So let me ask you a quick question before you jump on, though, because one of the things that I walked away thinking, do you feel because in the book it's 30 days, just like it is in the Glenn Powell version, but for a film, I almost wonder if the 3-hour time frame works better
right.
to encapsulate the film than doing
You're kind of
30 days.
Like 24. Yeah, exactly. Because really in the film, quasi spoilery, it doesn't run that length.
Right.
It runs, I believe, a total of 18 days without getting terribly spoilery, at least, from the beginning of the film to the end of it. So yeah, it doesn't really seem like it makes a lot of sense kind of as to the why. And you said, so you've read the book, you're more familiar, and so that is the way that it was in the book. It was still the same.
It's 30 days in the book and 30 days in this one. But I was, as like you, I was going back and watching the film. Like, that one actually makes sense. That feels tighter and more stress on the system, right?
Right.
Like in this version, and this is not really spoiler because you get it from the trailer. In this version, it's a lot of, it's 2025. It's a lot of people using their phones. Everybody is observing everybody in a kind of 1984 Orwellian world that we're living in.
Right.
And so I get that that's the tension we're building because he has to survive that for 30 days. But I walked out thinking, I don't know, the 3-hour tightness might work better in a film version as opposed to trying to do 30 days in
Right. Yeah, exactly. And in the original film, you really got the feeling that, like, well, this is really like a game show because it was all.
Yep.
And it was all within, like, well, this is the soundstage where if I'm remembering correctly, it's the soundstage where the whole thing happens, and it's this big, huge factory complex, and you have to take don't they ride in like the little ski sled through the little tunnels and stuff to get from A to B. So really no connectivity from this to that. So, all right. So keeping it non-spoilery, if you were to rate it just based on we talked about out of 10, because I like 10, 10's nice and round, where do you think you might approximate it? And you can certainly revise it the further on we get, because I've done that. I've had conversations. I'm like, I think I'll give it a point or take a point away.
So when I was on to do Tron, I said that I don't ever give a 7 because 7 isn't really a score, right? However, I don't feel. However, I might break the rule because I don't feel it's a 6, and I certainly don't feel it's an 8. I think it's a serviceable 7 because I genuinely like him in every facet of him as a character in this film, even though it gets convoluted at the end.
Right.
The whole film, I like what he's doing, and I like him as a character, and I like a lot of the, I know you're going to get into the parts that you like. A lot of the beats of the film I liked. I just think in order for it to get into the upper echelon of 8, 9, or 10, it isn't there, but it's not a B. So I'm going to break my rule and give it a 7.
Gotcha. The rules were made to be broken. I actually went with an 8, so I did break your rule. But, we've talked about the fact that it was closer to the source material, which I appreciate. I think about Stephen King, and it's weird because it's kind of the opposite. Like, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, 1980 film with Jack Nicholson, is a classic by any standard, and I don't know anybody who says, oh, this is trash, except for Stephen King. He didn't like it, did not touch the source material in the way he wanted to. He felt more strongly that I believe there was a TV film in the 90s with the dude from Wings. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Steven Weber guested in that. And that was a little bit more faithful adaptation. If I've seen that one, I don't really remember. But it was funny because the original film of this was very enjoyable because it was a parody and it was kind of a commentary on, and also it was made in 1987, but set in the distant future of 2017, where this is set in.
It was 27. Yeah.
Where this is set in present time. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a spoiler portion. There was a lot of really semi-predictable, like, kind of story beats that you expected. But I found it serviceable enough, but likable enough that I would kind of land it at an 8. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed it. And I appreciated the fact that, and I haven't really read any Stephen King's commentary on, but I appreciated the fact that it kind of wove its way a little bit closer to the source material, which was also kind of the idea with The Long Walk, which came out a couple months ago, another one of his works, a movie that I really enjoyed. stuck closer to the source material, or so I thought. So,
like, if you're a Stephen King fan, like, what a great year this is. Welcome to Derry.
Four films. I read that. Yeah, I can't remember what were the other two. So is this one? There was A Long Walk. What are the other two?
This year?
Yeah.
So you have Welcome to Derry. I don't know if that counts as
No, I know. I think it said films. The blurb that I read said films, but it didn't name them, which is annoying. So I don't know. Listeners, send us a note on any of the socials or at secretfriendsunited@gmail.com so that we don't. Or Eric could Google it, which makes much more sense.
I will do that right now.
Okay. But yeah, that's the wonders of technology. We had an unexpected break. All right. So what are the four films?
The Monkey.
Oh yeah.
Life of Chuck, Running Man, and Long Walk.
Did I see Life of Chuck?
Life of Chuck is amazing if you've not seen it. The book is spectacular, but the movie's awesome too.
What's the plot line? Give me the Reader's Digest version. I see so many movies, I forget things sometimes.
Yeah, so I really think people should. I don't want to give the spoiler of it, but it's about a man who is reliving parts of his life and trying to kind of get all the joy out of his life. It's a very different Stephen King film. That's about as spoiler as I want to get. But if you want just a wonderful film that shows kind of what Stephen can do when it doesn't involve a clown and a balloon, Life of Chuck is spectacular.
Where did it come out at? It was
a feature film. You can see it in theaters. I don't know where it is right now, but it should be pretty close to streaming somewhere.
I'm having this giant block in my brain. Anyway, all right. Well, that's it for Stephen King films in 2025. All right. Well, let's open up the floodgates and let's talk about some spoilers. All right. Let's talk about. So anyway, at this time, Mark, if you've not seen the film, this is the time to pause the show, go out and see that bad boy, come back and come back and listen to the rest of this program. So anyway, Eric, hit me with your 4 or 5 absolute favorite moments of the movie.
Man, I would say like I said, I liked the setup because I just like the kind of Edgar Wright-ness in the beginning where we've got the music and he's walking in to go try out for the film. And you get to see the flaw in his character because that guy dies in line. He tries to save that guy who dies in line. They send him to the back of the line and you're like, dude, you make this mistake over and over and over again. And I really liked that. I also really liked, this isn't necessarily a specific scene, but one of the choices that I liked a lot is the fight scenes were so tight. Every time there was hand-to-hand combat, it was in tight quarters. Even when they're down in that tunnel, it's just the three of them, it's super tight. When we're fighting on the plane, we're in the cockpit, it's super tight. And every time you get a fight, I really liked how on top of it was. But if I had a favorite scene, and it's a scene I can't confirm because I've only seen it once, there's a moment in the film where Ben Richards arrives in Derry, and he is dressed as a priest. And there's a human being on the street that recognizes him and is trying to goad him into looking at him so he can record it and get his, bounty for catching him on camera. And Ben Richards walks into this diner. And I swear to you, my friend, that there is either the reflection of balloons or the image of balloons. It very much felt like we were doing a quick nod to Pennywise as he goes in the diner and comes out the diner. It was so quick. I've only seen it once. I can't prove it, and I've not seen it anywhere else that someone says it happened. But we're in Derry. We're living in this world where we are, if you're watching Welcome to Derry, it's connecting to The Shining and all of these other things.
Yeah.
And, we're building this Stephen King MCU thing. So that was the one that stuck with me because I can't prove I didn't just imagine it, but that was the one that stuck out for me.
Oh my God, I love that. I didn't even, and I felt like at some point we got a clown laughing or something that was very Pennywise tilting heavy.
Well, I feel like Michael Cera's mom was supposed to fill that gap, right? Because she was kind of the crazy one.
Oh, absolutely. I'll pick kind of the low hanging fruit of softball. I love that their money is called new. It's called, what is it called? New cash and new money. It's new money. Yeah. And Arnie is on it. Yes. Arnold Schwarzenegger as his character from the 2017 movie is on their money. That is on the money. That I absolutely love. So, but the thing I would say overall that I loved and scares the shit out of me is that the social commentary was so strong with this film because of the way things are going in this country right now. I don't want to get largely political, but I think it's really hard for anybody, certainly anybody who listens to our show, to really deny that we're in a lot of trouble in the United States right now. And like you said, people watching people, entertainment gets more violent. People have less empathy. They don't really care about, how other people are doing or how, what it does affects them. And you're also looking at this complete overarching government control. And it's all really portrayed with Michael Cera's character really explaining to it. He says, I love it how they have dairy, I always chide April a little bit about the Stephen King. I said, Stephen King is at a small town in Maine with a sheriff and a preacher, and they're both at odds with you. They're both down on their luck. And because, so Michael Cera jumps, it's funny because like you said, Glenn arrives wearing the preacher gear, and Michael Cera talks about how his dad was a sheriff who got displaced by the government police force, and eventually, rubbed out. But it's when we have the '87 adaptation and it's in the then far future of 2017, it's kind of like you look at that and it's like Back to the Future is 2015. Oh, we'll have flying cars, and we'll have skateboards that really, we'll have the hoverboards or whatever. But this is 2025, and you feel like this could be going on outside of your door. In some ways, it is. Like I said, doing my best to avoid getting hyper political, but you know where I'm coming from.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also want to say, like, Coleman Domingo as Bobby T is like
God, I love
such
him.
a standout. I love him too, but he, on top of the fact that I love him in general, he is spectacular in this film and doesn't have enough time. He just doesn't get enough screen time.
Right. God, good stuff. With all of everything that's super duper high tech in this, you can you can throw something in a mailbox and it'll fly away and deliver it. But the fact that they use the little micro cassettes that used to go in answering machines to record stuff is fantastic. So it's and the guy, the gentleman who does, and again, what you had mentioned earlier, the video pirate who kind of wraps things up at the end. Has a wall full of VHS tapes. It's such a fun anachronism that really even somebody going to watch this who is maybe young and hasn't read the book and has no familiarity with VHS tapes might really not understand. But, for us, it's delightful. And the inclusion of dairy is totally awesome. And talk about timely because, Welcome to Dairy, which we'll have a wrap-up episode of that when that show ends in a few weeks. Peter and April and I are going to talk about it. Definitely, enjoy that and love that reference. And you said it's the Stephen King MCU averse that they're doing now. I just think that that's totally awesome. So, yeah. What's another one for you?
I would say one of the things that I felt was a miss is in the book when Ben Richards gets on the plane, and he gets on the plane the exact same way he gets on in the movie, he ends up finding out that his family was actually killed by a mob for real, as opposed to, this is the part of the film that I struggle with because that last part of the film, there's so many lies that you're told as the audience member, you're not really sure what is true and what isn't true.
Right.
Even to the end when you're told the family's dead, but then the family shows up and is that a real scene or is that not a real scene? Because I don't know where we are at this point. I sort of enjoyed the fact that Ben doesn't survive the book. And I think that would have been if he is, and Michael Cera calls him this, if he's the igniter, I feel like that would have been a great way to ignite this thing if he fly, because in the book he flies it back into the network essentially, right?
Right.
And so if he flies it into the network, you kind of get that retribution that you're looking for. That isn't quite as I think you had in your notes, isn't quite as predictable as the beats that we get instead of that.
Right.
And I just think that might have helped the end of the film for me if Ben doesn't survive, because those last wrap-up scenes really make it convoluted for me in a way that I didn't need it to be.
And it's really way too Hollywood how he then shows up and he has his his quippy one-liner at the end, like "Merry Christmas," and he points the gun at the gun at Josh Brolin, and it's it's way too Hollywoody, and it's you're trying to create an opening where he'd come back as character in another film or whatever it is. So My biggest missed opportunity, and again, I wrote it right here in my notes, the woman in the car, whose name I don't even remember, who is just randomly inserted into this film, has this, and I couldn't even tell if this was being played for laughs, but she has this tear-filled, like screamed speech that she gives to Ben Richards that was very much, and the Oscar goes to, like she was acting the shit out of it. And it just, I'm like, who? And then she stays with, they do this fake hostage thing. So they get on a plane, and I don't know if that came from the book, but then she gets pushed out of the plane with his little manifesto, which she off screen delivers. And then she's never heard from her. You don't actually know if she lives or whatever. You assume she does, but she just seemed like she was just kind of inserted for no good reason. I don't know. I felt like it was just kind of a lot. I mean, obviously, it was, if that came from the book and that was a necessary conveyance to get us from the second act to the third act to all the way to the end, maybe so. But
but I agree with you, because if you're going to do the other wrap up, right, where Ben is buying groceries for his wife and child, right, you're making sure, in case you didn't realize, Ben is still alive, and here's how we prove it. It would have been nice if she shows up somewhere in an office, or what, I don't know what she, obviously you know nothing about this character because she just shows up, but it would be nice to see her watching the ripoff of the Kardashians or something at the end, you know, like whatever.
The Americanos.
Yeah, the Americanos.
Oh my gosh. So, all right. A couple of bits and pieces. Oh, and the other fact was, and this ties in with one of my bits here. Tom Cruise called Glenn Powell, and of course they were in Top Gun Maverick together, a film that I absolutely love. And he talked to him all about, doing what it is, doing his own stunts, whatever it is. And apparently he imparted on him how to do the Tom Cruise run with the arms, because he's seen doing it at least once in this film. So, shape of things to come, I'm just not sure. Could be. I did mention Josh Brolin and Lee Pace were Thanos and Ronan, respectively, in Guardians of the Galaxy 2014. I thought that was nice to see it. And they did mimic it. Was, like I said, you and I were talking about the original film. They did recreate kind of the solid gold dancers moment of the dancers, flopping around. Even the costumes look a little bit similar to me. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Overall, I thought a lot of those nods were very fun. I just think when we get to that third act, we have to decide, is Ben a revolutionary or is he just super angry? Because at no point does he kind of make that character leap that you believe that he's going to now take the country on his back and lead them into whatever is next. Because the entire film, up until that second, he is, doing it for his family. And even, when we're supposed to believe that he has snapped and he's not doing it for his family because they're no longer with us, he also doesn't believe that that's true.
Right.
And so I think that's where it gets a little squirrely for me.
Gotcha. So, well, cool. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I hope it does better than $17 million. That's my final.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun.
It's not that, right? Like, it's not that. And I think in a world where Badlands can do as well as it did, which is awesome, I just think it would be nice if Badlands had started more people going to see other things in the theater, because this is absolutely worth seeing, and certainly worth seeing without, as they say, a second screen. It's one you want to see in the theater as opposed to at your house.
Totally agree. Good deal. All right. Well, of course, The Running Man is playing in theaters right now. Please go support it because we want to see it successful. And I like Glenn Powell. I think he's kind of our action hero of the next generation. If they finally put Tom Cruise out to pasture, but he might be like Hugh Jackman and he's making movies till he's 90. Who knows? But I would prefer to see Glenn Powell myself personally. Eric, man, it's great to have you back. Where do people find you out there?
You can find me anywhere on the interwebs as Eric Hultgren, Hultgren.
Not too difficult at all. And of course, I can be found, my stuff, on all of the socials as the C3, THREE. I also run the Secret Friends Unite socials all across the spectrum. We've been active on TikTok, been doing more YouTube shorts where I just do 2 or 3 minute blurbs. I'm talking about stuff that I'm enjoying, etc. So please tune in there. You can find all of our content on our website, secretfriendsunite.com. And also, as I mentioned at the top of the show, our Secret Friends Unite Patreon at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite is a great place to find all of our stuff and extra bonus content, and over on our wonderful Discord. So, boy, I haven't really figured out a good sign off since I've started doing the show again. But what I've always said is thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you know that sharing is caring and to keep on trucking. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.